Hello, everyone. Welcome to the session on AWS as a growth enabler for financial services. My name is Raguraj, and I'm a technical training specialist working in Amazon Web Services, India. This is going to be the agenda for this session. We will start with how digitization can help you to accelerate your growth. We will discuss about top market needs in the FIS sector. How can cloud benefit your business? And why exactly Amazon Web Services, along with a few real world case studies. Digitization of SMB with the cloud. So, digitization helps small and medium businesses to accelerate growth in three key areas: reach existing and prospective customers, streamline your operations, and also leverage modernized capabilities to increase your business. In our introduction to SMB digitization session, we will zoom into the third area on modernized capabilities and understand how can that help accelerate your growth. So, what are modern capabilities? And in a nutshell, how can they help SMBs cope with some of the scenarios that the industry encounters? Here's how. First one is around payment fraud, which is a growing problem for the industry. By leveraging AWS machine learning and analytics services, the industry can provide a frictionless customer experience while also preventing illegitimate transactions, protecting consumers, as well as their own bottom line. The second one is around extending credit. See, with billions of people globally without a credit score and increasing demand for frictionless lending, the payment service providers need a better and faster way to extend credit to those with and without a traditional credit history. So, using AWS's analytics and ML services, companies can gather, store, and analyze the insights they need to make rapid credit decisions, which will open the door for new revenue opportunities. Third one is around real-time decisioning. Making sense of data in real time is critical for payment companies. Thereby, they can minimize the risk and also improve the customer experience. By leveraging AWS data ingestion and streaming services, companies can provide a frictionless transactions for customers and merchants and improve and automate customer service interactions. They can also gain a 360-degree view of their clients and the business. And all of this is done by building a data lake. So on AWS, you can build a data lake which allows payment companies to store and analyze large volumes of customer data, behavioral data from multiple devices, and scale new products. And finally, this is something that most of the customers usually faces. Customers try to contact you for support, but your staff is too busy to attend their calls promptly, which actually leads to lower customer satisfaction. Digital tools like chatbots can help you provide a better customer experience by allowing you to engage with customers 24/7, routing simple requests to automated channels, and while escalating more serious issues to human operators. Top financial services SMB market needs. So the market currently looks at some of these factors. Risk and compliance. Retailers need to ensure that the data they collect is protected. So this is critical not only to maintain compliance, but also in maintaining customer trust. The second one is around IT transformations. Retailers can lower costs and increase business agility by migrating existing applications to the cloud and implementing modern IT architectures. And the third one is around new digital experiences. Customer behaviors are changing, so retailers are trying to figure out how to deliver new digital experiences. They want to derive new insights to create new value propositions and tweak current offerings. So compliance and analytics on customers' data will be helpful to determine creditworthiness in many cases. Now, how can cloud benefit your business? So to understand that, we first need to understand what exactly is cloud computing. So the definition says cloud computing is the on-demand delivery of IT resources over the internet with a pay-as-you-go pricing. What does that translate to? So in simplest terms, instead of you maintaining infrastructure and data centers, which can be heavy capital expenditure, you rely on this simple pay-per-use pricing model and also the agility with which you can procure IT resources over the internet. It's like getting electricity at your homes. Instead of plugging into the wall to receive power, you plug into the internet to receive computing resources. So why will the business want to invest in such an effort? Well, here are a few objectives that can be achieved. Growth in top line revenue, increase in profits, allows you to tap into newer avenues which wouldn't be possible with the traditional mode, and more importantly, improve employee productivity. And this is the general criteria how the industry is measuring the success. Right? This is talking about the overall return on investment that organizations are looking by undergoing a digital transformation. So what does it take to do digitalization? Right? So let's get into the details of how exactly digitization can benefit your business with the cloud and especially with AWS. So we all know AWS is easy to use, it is flexible, it's reliable and cost effective. So let's understand how exactly you're able to achieve that. Why AWS? The first thing is the reliability. So with AWS, you take advantage of a scalable, reliable, and secure global computing infrastructure, the virtual backbone of Amazon.com's multi-billion-dollar online business that has been available for over 15 years now. The cost, you only pay for the compute power, storage, and other resources you use with no long-term contracts or upfront commitments. So you can check out the AWS Economics Center for more information on comparing the costs of other hosting alternatives with AWS. The next benefit is around the scale and high availability. So using AWS tools like auto scaling, elastic load balancing, your application can scale up or down based on demand. Backed by Amazon's massive infrastructure, you have access to compute and storage resources when you actually need them. And security, we call it a day zero job at AWS. So AWS uses an end-to-end approach to secure and harden your infrastructure, including physical, operational, and software measures. Check out the AWS Security Center to understand the security depth that AWS provides. So with this capabilities and a proven track record, AWS is on an ambitious mission to empower SMBs to innovate and scale their businesses. Using AWS, you get the most benefits in your digitization journey because AWS is consistently ranked higher in the Gartner Index with their platform breadth and depth capabilities. We have a global presence in more than 25 regions across the world, and there are many more that have gone recently with different infrastructure layout to achieve better, higher availability of your applications by leveraging our availability zones, which are a cluster of data centers within a region. We have a point of presence network, which helps you to build a content delivery network. If you want to just experiment it out, try out how your workloads will work in the cloud, we have a free tier. So you can sign up for an AWS free tier for getting started quickly and experiment your use case. So you get 12 months of AWS free tier and under the limits that has been advertised here. To calculate your overall TCO, you can use the publicly available pricing calculator via the web. All you need to do is input basic parameters and you can evaluate what could be your overall expense, and you can explore different pricing options that will help you to lower the costs even further. So this could be a good starting point to understand what would be your total return on investment. And the major benefit you get is going global in minutes. So we have a broad range of capabilities across different domains with 200 services, and they cover cutting edge technologies. It could be compute, it could be databases, security, AI, ML, and of course, data analytics, and etc. And doing all of this with the best of the class security that AWS provides. Every customer on AWS benefits from the same world-class security that is powering the AWS data centers. We provide you various tools and mechanisms via our shared responsibility model, which will allow you to securely store your data in the cloud and operate in a scalable manner. A lot of customers are making AWS their home. So financial institutions are now considering how they fit within the world of digital banking as customer expectations, the regulations, and new digital banking licenses are driving change across the industry. At the same time, consumers are considering a move to digital only banks as their appetite increases for digital channels and personalization. Digital banks can meet regulatory requirements while developing new business models by building a secure, scalable, and innovative platform in the cloud with AWS. We will be going through some of these use cases in the subsequent slides. So far, we have covered about the fundamentals of the cloud, the AWS SMB mission, and why AWS is best suited for the financial industry. So let's go through a few case studies and understand how customers are implementing this in the real world. The first one is with Credit Vidya. Credit Vidya is a startup headquartered in India and whose underwriting technology is opening the country's loan market to over 250 financially excluded citizens. So what used to happen, financial institutions have been unwilling to lend these citizens because they have a daily household income of between $2 to $10, and they lack a collateral and a credit history. And furthermore, processing the loans, which averages about $290 per applicant, has been too costly. So Credit Vidya's technology is reducing the cost of processing loans from about $2 to less than 1 cent while overcoming a lack of credit history or collateral by leveraging the applicant's digital footprint. And using that, they are measuring their creditworthiness. How do they do that? So they have built a AI and ML platform called as Medus, which leverages payment data, financial behavior data, and device data that is stored on the applicant's smartphone to determine the ability and intent to repay the loans. So this AI platform continuously optimizes the parameters for scoring applicants' creditworthiness based on growing store of loan applications. Since working with Credit Vidya, lending partners, which include 55 leading banks and non-banking financial institutions in India, have seen approval rates increase by 25% and delinquency rates decrease by 33%. And they are also able to scale to support 10 times more daily applications than before. Right? So with Credit Vidya, this is the quote from their VP of IT and security. They are able to help millions of people gain access to India's formal loans market at a lower interest rate. Now I'm going to play a video about HDFC Life and understand how they are able to build an event-driven data lake and a recovery system.
Welcome to This Is My Architecture. We are in Mumbai. I'm Gaurav and I've got AB with me. Hi AB.
Hi Gaurav.
AB, tell me something about HDFC Life.
So HDFC Life is the second largest insurance provider in India, life insurance provider in India, and it has been in India for the past 19 years, and we have been reaching out to all of the customers across India and providing life insurance for them.
Lovely. And we are discussing the second time about data lakes. Tell me how it has evolved since.
So data lake traditionally is a basic requirement for all of the companies out right now, and in this time and era, we would need something which would work on a real-time basis more than something which is running on a delayed basis. So we looked at our existing data lake and found that it is high time for an upgrade, and we need something which works more real-time and on an event-driven basis to mimic the real world.
Right. And in a large enterprise, I'm sure that the source systems are not so easy to deal with. So tell me about what the source systems are and how do you take the data from there?
So we have a good legacy. So we have AS400 and we have the latest possible databases up till DynamoDB. So we have different disparate data sources along with flat files and multitudes of different types of data which we have to bring into play. And that's where all of this boxes comes in.
So how does the data flow in the architecture?
So what we have is all of the disparate data sources, and of course we have a direct connect pipe which is built in to pull in all of these data sources into our AWS infrastructure. For when we have all of the data coming in, we have DMS sitting over here, which basically is the feed for pulling all of the data from disparate sources and into our AWS landscape, which in this case being DynamoDB.
Lovely. So you're using database migration as a service and getting data into DynamoDB. You've got the data layered into raw L1, L2. Can you tell us about those, please?
So traditionally layers are built into any data warehouse or data lake, and they have a different purpose. In this case, the layers which we have in place are not to kind of separate the data, but to kind of personify each of the layers into some meaning to it. Now, each of these layers have a certain meaning and working from bottom to top. Raw is just a mimicry of existing sources, but all of them in one place. L1 builds the user persona on top of raw, and L2 enriches those user personas with behaviors and attributes to it.
Brilliant. And interesting choice of a database you've got for staging. You're using DynamoDB. Can you explain the choice of that?
So traditionally, you wouldn't expect DynamoDB to be a choice for a data lake platform. But if you can evaluate in terms of our requirements and the drive to kind of upgrade this into a real-time driven architecture, you'll find that if you have lots and lots of transaction happening on and again repeatedly, you would need something which doesn't burden us in terms of cost. And when we kind of evaluated the cost between DynamoDB and S3, we found that DynamoDB is actually cheaper when it comes to a real-time driven architecture.
Lovely. And how does the event-driven architecture work between DynamoDB and Lambdas?
So DynamoDB within itself is actually packaging a lot of features, and one of the best features being the DynamoDB streams, which is tightly coupled with Lambdas. So when you have that feature already in, it gives us two things. One, it gives you the event-driven part, and at the same time, it also gives you resilience because it also handles an error part where something errors out, it yet triggers in Lambda. So you have the DynamoDB streams, which then have Lambdas being triggered, wherein all of the data processing happens between intermittent layers, and Lambdas then push in those layers back to your L1 or L2, from raw to L1 or L1 to L2.
Interesting. So can you give me an estimate in terms of how many Lambda functions are we talking about?
So we have around 550 odd Lambdas, which transfer the data between raw to L1 and L1 to L2. And along with these Lambdas, we also have step functions, which does further orchestrations to build up provide multiple other business objectives.
Cool. And I see that you still retained your the S3 bucket data lake. So can you walk us through the reason for that existing in an event-driven architecture?
Yes. So when it comes to an event-driven architecture, we know that 90 to 95% of it can be done real time. Even when it comes to the remaining 5% bulk operation, we have managed to build it using Lambdas and DynamoDB, within Lambdas and DynamoDB themselves. But what we are missing out is in terms of an mistake which happens, or an error which happens, where a recovery is required back into DynamoDB. We found that through experience that whenever a recoverability has to be done, there's a cost involved in it. And to figure out a way, or when we kind of explored the options, we found S3 and Athena joint can become a good serverless recovery mechanism to kind of rebuild any of our existing data lake platforms in case of errors.
Interesting. So you're not burdening your source systems when you need to do a recovery.
Yes, that's correct. So what happens is, while the data is being pushed into DynamoDB, at the same time it's also being pushed into S3. But all of the intermittent layers are not built. We only keep the data at the raw layer. And if at any point we find an error in any one of the layer or any partial error in part of the layer, with say within L1 there was some business change and we need to rebuild that layer, we use Athena as a to and fro data mechanism where we rebuild the layer within S3, and once the layer is built within S3 using Athena, we again push that data back into DynamoDB.
It's a brilliant way to get things done. So where do you evolve from here? What comes next?
So we have kind of evolved on this existing architecture from an architecture which was running in a slight lag. Now to use this new real-time architecture, we had to do two things. One is to basically get everything which was in the existing architecture onto the new one. Second is to get this real-time knowledge which we're gathering out to the end customer, and that being both internal and external, salespeople and our end customers. Now what we found is the existing machine learning pieces which are there out in the market, there are much more advancement in terms of reinforcement learning, and it's being actively used. And we want to figure out and explore how to get reinforcement learning within the life insurance industry. And we are evaluating how to use TensorFlow on AWS SageMaker to achieve this. And so we see the roadmap to be really interesting.
Lovely. Abhi, thanks for coming.
Thank
Appreciate it. And thanks for watching this episode of This is My Architecture.
Enjoyed the video and understood how HDFC Life were able to implement AWS in their workloads. Let us talk about another case study, probably something that is closer to most of us, and we have encountered this during some part of our journey. So this is about Paytm Payments Bank. It is a leading digital bank in India, and they have over 330 million digital wallets. Now, the bank was one of the 35 certified banks in India that issues FASTag, which is a cashless and electronic toll collection device. So PPBL previously hosted the infrastructure for the tag issuer system on premises. And while doing that, they were observing some network connectivity issues a couple of times that required detailed analysis and temporary hardware unavailability. Now, when the Indian government released the guidelines mandating toll plaza deductions through FASTag, roughly around the end of 2020, the bank saw an opportunity to migrate to the cloud. In anticipation of the rapid growth in users and transactions, Paytm Payments Bank decided to leverage Amazon Web Services. So around January 2021, they used AWS to scale out faster. And by the end of 2021, the company was able to handle more than 1.8 million average daily tag transactions, as compared to half of those average daily transactions in 2020. And it was the largest issuer of FASTags in India. Let me talk about another case study about Katabook. So Katabook, which means a credit ledger in Hindi, it's a digital ledger application which has over 10 million active monthly users. It was launched to address challenges that MSMEs face, like manual data entry that could result in calculation errors, lack of real-time visibility into business transactions, and data loss due to physical handling of accounting books. So Katabook generates the reports, they send reminders to creditors, and it also facilitates online payments through Unified Payments Interface, UPI. Katabook chose to run its app on Amazon Web Services because of the range of services available, particularly the native database engines. Most of the team members were familiar with AWS, which helped them accelerate time to market with little to no learning curve. So the business used Amazon Relational Database Services for Postgre. They used Amazon Document DB for Mongo workloads. And they offered a wide variety of native tools to manage the internal application. They also used Amazon Pinpoint to send reminders and notifications to users via SMS, including completion notification for end-of-day reports. Because of all these modifications, Katabook was able to see a more 60 to 70% utilization when compared to the previous utilization. Next on the roadmap, Katabook plans to pursue more security and compliance certifications and drive further automation and deployment templates. It is also considering new security tools and a robust backup plan on AWS. So as you can see, there are a lot of customers around the world that are leveraging the power of AWS, even homegrown customers as well. Now, if you want to get started with your journey in the AWS cloud, there are multiple ways. You might be totally new to the cloud, or you already have experienced resources working in the cloud. You can leverage the plethora of resources AWS makes available to you. You can write to our technical and sales team via the contact us page, or you can talk to our nearest AWS partners. If you want to experiment it out, you can use our generous free tier to do your POCs. We also run a lot of training programs internally and externally. And I would strongly encourage you to check out the SMB program that is specifically built for customers like you. So we have a bunch of lightweight use cases that can be used to understand how your workloads can fit in the cloud. A lot of credits can be provided to you, and training is also incorporated as part of this program. So talking about the lightweight use cases, you will understand how to build a secure storage and backup with AWS. So you can scale IT resources on demand with 99.999 up to 11 nines of durability, operate with global scale, and run your ML and analytics on backup. You can host your website on AWS. So this is an ideal service for simpler workloads and quick deployments, and a good way to get started on AWS. So your team can start small and then scale as you grow and your needs grow. You can migrate and free up IT resources to achieve lower costs, greater staff productivity, etc. And more importantly, you can rapidly improve customer engagement. So AWS enables you to understand your customers with user management capabilities, reach customers with audience management capabilities, send the right message at the right time to the target customers, and measure if your engagement was successful with our analytics. AWS also provides training and certification. So we have a customized training team that will help you to skill up and gain confidence to design, develop, and deploy your workloads. And you can demonstrate and certify your skills by taking up the AWS certification program. AWS offers a plethora of certifications from a beginner to an associate to the professional level. So you can leverage one of the certifications to have your employees display that they meet the required necessary skills to work on the AWS. Apart from that, we also have a broad range of solutions available in our library that is ranging across different business domains, financial services, media and entertainment, retail industry, advertising, and marketing. So these are solutions that are built by our solution architects that can help you to quickly gauge and understand how other customers are actually building these workloads. Apart from that, if you think you need more help, AWS has specialist SAs and partners who can run modernization workshops with you. They can conduct curated workshops and training modules with the help of our partners, and they will teach you as to what are the best practices and how they can be implemented in real world for your exact use case. So do check out the AWS training and certification page for more details on these things. With this, we come towards the end of the session. So I hope you enjoyed the session. And in case if you have further questions, feel free to reach out here. Thank you.